Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry for the slightly late start. Welcome to today's meeting, joint meeting of the West of England Mayoral Combined Authority Committee and the Joint Committee. I will remind you all that this meeting is being recorded, and I will also remind you very briefly of the evacuation procedure. In the event of a fire, please await direction from the West of England Combined Authority staff, who will help to assist with the evacuation. Please do not return to the building until instructed to do so by the fire wardens. Today's meeting, we've received apologies from Kevin Guy, Councillor Kevin Guy, leader of Bath and North East Somerset Council. I'm joined by Councillor Tony Dyer, leader of Bristol City Council, Councillor Sarah Warren, who is deputising for the leader of Bath and North East Somerset Council. It's lovely to welcome back Councillor Maggie Tyrrell, leader of South Gloucestershire Council, and what an entrance! Just in time for the big intro. Councillor Mike Bell, who is the leader of North Somerset Council. I would also like to welcome Councillor Jerome Thomas, who is chair of the Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and Councillor David Wilcox, who is chair of the Authorities Audit Committee. Item number 2 is the declaration of interests. So I will ask if any members have declarations of interest to declare. And that's a no. And then we'll move swiftly on to the minutes of the previous meeting. These are the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 18th of July. They are in the agenda pack, and I'll just ask if members are content to agree these minutes as a correct record. Yeah. Super. Okay, so that is confirmed. So we'll move to item 4, which is the Mayor's announcements. So since we were last together, there are quite a few updates that I'd love to make. When we were last together, we approved over £8 million of investment in better walking, wheeling and cycling routes, and more than half of that was for Bath Quays. Not long after that, it was a real pleasure to welcome Chris Boardman to the West. Chris is the Active Travel England Commissioner. Along with Bristol's deputy leader, we had a walking tour of Bristol city centre to showcase just some of what's already been delivered, including the pedestrian-friendly King Street, cycle lane improvements on Bristol Bridge, and also Princes Street Bridge. We continued with our Kids Go Free bus scheme, which went into September. More information will come soon on the impact that that had, but leaders like me are thrilled that we saw over 910,000 free journeys over the summer holidays on the buses, which is almost £1 million back into the pockets of parents across the region. We also saw the Wild Summit over the summer, which is the UK's new flagship conference for the nature sector. And that took place here in the West, which is, of course, the home of new green jobs. On a lovely sunny morning, I highlighted how our local nature recovery strategy brings people together under a coordinated plan to restore and reconnect nature, and helps to integrate nature recovery into housing, transport and infrastructure planning. Together, we also shared how the growth strategy would have nature at its heart, because our nature and our landscapes do not constrain our growth. They're among the many things that are in fact driving growth in our region. It was also very special to be hosted at the Bristol Digital Futures Institute in September to launch our new growth strategy together. We had a very simple message at that strategy launch, which is that the West is the best place to invest. Since 2019, our economy's growth rate has been 4 times the national average. We've seen the highest job growth of any region, including London, in major industries, and we feel like the best is yet to come. We've also, on a related note, opened applications for our new business board, which will remain open until the end of this month. So I would really encourage everyone to visit our website, and if it's relevant to you, to consider putting yourselves forward. At the end of September, with regional business leaders, I took the growth strategy to national investors and cabinet ministers at Labour Party, including the Chancellor, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, the Secretary of State for Housing and the Secretary of State for Transport. People will have seen that the Prime Minister at that conference announced a target of 2/3 of young people to be receiving degrees or higher technical education qualifications. I've since written to the Prime Minister about how mayoral combined authorities and devolution can play a key role to deliver that agenda. In the weeks since we launched the growth strategy, we were awarded £25 million as part of the government's Creative Places Growth Fund. When we launched the strategy, I talked to everyone about how the West is not just the best place to invest, but also the best place to spend time, and our cultural offer is a big part of that. We've also moved a step closer to a new town. The government's independent new town task force recommended 12 new locations, including Brabazon and the West Innovation Arc. And the Arc is, as many of you will know, already identified as a priority in our growth strategy. And that's a hub for advanced manufacturing and also a driver for national economic growth, with ambitions to transform public transport to unlock more growth and housing. Since the task force report was published, South Gloucestershire have granted planning permission for the new rail station at Henbury. And at the same time, the government have confirmed that GWR will be one of the next rail franchises to come back under public control, which I know is welcome news. And finally, we also welcomed a government minister to Hartcliffe last week. Unfortunately, Hartcliffe's first citizen was unavailable to attend, but we hope we did you proud, Tony. Hartcliffe, along with Swerton, will receive up to £2 million a year for every year of the next decade, with local people set to decide how that funding is invested, which is key. So before we move on to substantive business, I would like to offer the floor to the other leaders. Maggie, is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Helen. I don't want to add a lot. I think this just shows this enormous list of very significant activities that has happened since the last meeting is indicative, I think, of the way that the authority is moving forward. I think the launch of the growth strategy, which obviously we'll be talking about later as well, it will have huge significance for us. And from South Gloucestershire perspective, that it really makes us stand out as a nationally significant growth area, with an economy that's consistently outpaced the national average, as you've just said. And I think crucially, that growth, whilst the economic growth is important, it isn't just for the sake of it. It is to improve the lives of our residents, and I think that does come across in what we've achieved with the growth strategy. And of course, that then very neatly links into the possibilities of the new towns, which again will have a very major impact, but I think really positive. So yes, and thank you for as well coming out and meeting particularly our towns and parishes that you came out to see. That connection with the local communities, I think, will stand us in good stead as we move forward.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Maggie. Sarah, do you want to add any comment?
Well, only just very briefly that I think that huge list of activities just shows what we can all achieve for our region and for our residents when we work collaboratively together.
Thank you. Tony.
Thank you. Obviously, having been born and bred in Hartcliffe, I am particularly pleased about the announcement of the funding for my place of origin. And I think it's probably the best opportunity that Hartcliffe has had to see real investment coming into it since, well, for 30 plus years. And I think also connected to that was the extension of the M1 bus route, which is now coming into Hartcliffe. And the connectivity between Hartcliffe and other parts of the city we know is poor via public transport, so improving that be excellent. I think just very quickly, I mean, the Newtown news is very welcome. Obviously, you would expect me to mention that we still got Worcester Temple Quarter, and we'll still be working hard on Worcester Temple Quarter. And I think also the fact that we have finally started work on a spatial development strategy. I think that's important for the region as a whole, right across the four authorities.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tony. Mike.
Yeah, thank you. I would just echo a lot of the comments. It was really great to have the opportunity to meet with the Minister for Devolution, with you, Helen, recently, and talk about our shared ambitions for the future of our region, but in particular, ensuring that North Somerset plays its full role in the future of the region. And I think we can see through the agenda that colleagues will be discussing today that we're very much in the space of trying to make a difference for our communities and delivering for people across the west of England, and that we are more effective doing that, working together. It was really great to have you in Weston-super-Mare as well recently to talk about the spatial development strategy, and again another representation of how North Somerset and the other partners across the west of England are increasingly working together to make a difference. So look forward to the discussions today, and thank you again for your continued support and engagement.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so we'll move on to item number 5, which is items from the public. So under the Constitution, just as a reminder, we've got 30 minutes for this item. We had an extraordinary number of questions received from members of the public ahead of this meeting. There were 119 questions. I understand this is the most we've ever received. I'll take it as a win. But we are genuinely very grateful for everyone who is engaging with the democratic process. And everyone will be able to see their answers on the authority's website. They have already gone up this morning, I believe. I'm looking for someone to nod, so that is confirmed. Around 100 of those questions do relate to the South Bristol livable neighbourhood proposals. So I want to take the opportunity now, as I have in my specific answers to those questions, to please encourage everyone to respond to Bristol City Council's consultation by the 30th of October. I'm sure Tony would agree that is the best way for your views to be heard and considered. And the council will then obviously consider public feedback, refine those proposals, and then they will submit a business case bid to the regional authority, the West of England Combined Authority, for us to assess in detail. Tony, do you want to add anything at this stage before we move on to statements?
Yeah, I think the South Bristol livable neighbourhood is not only in Bristol, it's also my ward as a local councillor. And I'm aware that there is a lot of strong feeling about it, and that's we need to capture that. I would say, as well as responding to the consultation, we're also getting emails as ward councillors, and I would like to encourage that. What I would say is, I think I don't want to preempt the outcome of the consultation, but I think it's clear that there are already some clear things that need to change. And for example, I think it's clear that how the orange zone is set up at the moment isn't something that's going to be supportable going forward. And I do think we need to look at a few other areas, but we'll wait until we get all the responses to the consultation.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tony. So in addition to those questions, we have received 15 statements. Again, thank you for that. These statements have been published on the authority's website, and people have indicated that they wish to address the meeting on the topic of their statements. So I'm going to call each person for a maximum of 3 minutes. So it's 3 minutes maximum time for each speaker, and the clerk will indicate at 2.5 minutes. So statement number 1 is from David Redwell.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think, as a member of the bus advisory panel for North Somerset and West, I think we are making lots of progress on buses. That is music to my ears, really. Routes are going back, routes back to Wotton Under Edge, routes back in East Bristol. Now better routes across from Cribbs Causeway to Yates and Thornbury, and more buses back in Bath and North East Somerset's fixed routes. And new routes in North Somerset down to Yatton Station from Southfield Hospital. So that's great. It's costing a lot of money. And this is where I'm worried. It's going to cost us £15 million just to stand still. And that allows for a price increase to the operators. And that's what we need to raise through the transport levy, plus the money from UK government through the transport grant, the bus grant. And that is very, very important to sustain this. We don't want to see any bus cuts in April. That would be an absolute disaster if we have to switch the tap back off after so much work by officers here to restore them. The one problem, child, and I had a problem this morning with it, is Westlink. Westlink still doesn't function. It left me stranded, I think I told you, Mayor, at Filton Station this morning for over 30 minutes, trying to get to Southmead Hospital, where I've been a patient this week. That is not acceptable. I think we need to look more at Westlink, more about putting it into fixed routes and more about making sure we completely review it with North Somerset. I think they're taking it in-house over in North Somerset to make sure we get a better service next April when the contracts all come to an end. On rail, I welcome the movements on Metro West 2, Metro West 1. We need to look at the Henbury Loop. We also need to look at the Lawrence Hill Station, the second lift, because you need 2 lifts on both platforms. And I'm grateful for your work on cross country, and the MD of cross country will meet, and I think the other mayors, we need investment in cross country trains. It's a major thoroughfare across the country, and to have 5-car trains going from Plymouth and Bristol to Manchester and Newcastle and Leeds and to Edinburgh and down to Bournemouth and Cardiff is not acceptable. And not all trains go to London, so I think we're extremely grateful you started the debate, and I hope the mayors will join that debate with Tyrone and get this moving and a business plan for cross country. That's gratefully received. On moving forward to the future, I think we need to set up a transport authority, and with North Somerset becoming its member, I think we need to push the precept powers for the authority. We have no precepting powers, and that will make bus franchising almost impossible. We don't have the resources to buy those depots, buy the equipment, and we need to then revenue support it. And the levy isn't working, so how we can franchise buses when we don't have the levy is a real concern. Franchising in the long term is a good thing. I think in the short term, we need to work through with the operators and maintain the networks we've got. But it's good news on public transport. We just need to keep going, and Westlink is still the problem child. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. I think I've said enough on cross-country trains this week, haven't I, Jerome? So I won't make any further comment on that. Okay, thank you, David, as always. Second statement is Eleni Morris, please.
Hi, so I'm here representing local food banks and people who use the food banks, and I'm here with a representative of BRASP, so Bristol Refugee Asylum Seeker Partnership. And together we represent a new partnership in a campaign for free bus travel for people facing the severest forms of hardship. And this is our joint statement. Bus fares in the west of England are a significant barrier to day-to-day life for people facing the most severe forms of destitution. This includes a broad range of people, such as those using food banks who are unable to collect food, people with no recourse to public funds who are unable to get to classes, and asylum seekers who are struggling to attend legally binding appointments. We believe that everyone on the lowest income, no matter who you are or where you come from, should have access to life support transport services. We've seen the transformative impact of free bus travel for other vulnerable groups, including people with disabilities and care leavers, and thank WECA for creating and delivering this policy. Will the WECA Mayor consider introducing free bus travel for people using food banks and for asylum seekers to help people get back on their feet, reduce social isolation, and allow everyone to move freely around their area? And will the WECA Mayor also agree to meet with us, a coalition of those with lived experience and supporters of those on the lowest incomes, to learn more about and discuss our ask?
Thank you, Eleni. Number 3 is Jo Sargent, please.
Good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of Reclaim Our Buses. We are a campaigning organisation to push for franchising of bus services. But I just want to step aside one moment and say, would it be really nice if there could be a few more bike racks for the public outside, as there appear to be only 4. Now, I appreciate that isn't necessarily WECA's responsibility, but perhaps you could contact your local councillor and ask them if they would engage and arrange for additional bike racks to allow the public to access the building. Thank you. And I want to say thank you for the responses to my questions, particularly in light of the huge amount you've had. And I do remain concerned about enhanced partnerships, and particularly about the enforcement of passenger charter. I haven't really seen anything convincing me that this is going to be really enforceable. And I'm also concerned, as David has already mentioned, about the sustainability of funding due to frozen bus levies. And there's a sense of a grab whatever you can find to plug the gaps approach, which doesn't feel like it could go on indefinitely. And really about the general state of the buses across the west of England, they are not good. There are some lovely shiny green buses going round, but they're not on my route. And the bus that I would have caught this morning was cancelled, and this is a regular occurrence. That's in Bristol. North East Somerset and South Gloucestershire, there are other problems around lack of buses, around the threat of a loss of a bus service in places like Winterbourne. And there is also the issue of incredibly slow buses in parts of North East Somerset. I think there's an awful lot to address, so I'm going to leave it there. But what I would like to see is for franchising, whilst yes, expensive and possibly will take a while, please do not let enhanced partnership that isn't working particularly well get in the way of a chance to actually make the buses fit for the economy and fit for the west of England. Thank you.
Thanks, Jo. The next statement is from Christina Biggs.
Hello, I'm representing the Bristol Rail campaign, otherwise known as FOSBR, Friends of Suburban Railways. So I'm going to talk a bit about phase 2. I note that the committee is being asked to approve a drawdown of funds to fund it. Obviously, we're a rail campaign group. Obviously, we're very excited about this. I just want to bring in the comments made on Monday about Henbury Loop. So just to sort of lay it out, originally the idea was that we were campaigning for was a loop from Henbury Station round to Avonmouth. But actually Network Rail have gone one better, and they've got in their future plans the idea of having a loop the other way, so it goes from Henbury up to Severn Beach. The advantage of this is that you then not have to find an extra way to get to Severn Beach and back. So the idea would be you come up from Avonmouth, go straight to Severn Beach, and then come back on the Henbury loop down into Henbury. So I'm saying there's no dead end then. So I think we should definitely push for that. It's not in the current plans. Obviously, the branch line study, which we're also very excited about, is the branch line study is looking at enhanced frequency for the existing infrastructure. So we'd really like to see trains across from North Felton across the Bristol Parkway as possible, because we've got the Filton Diamond there. I note already that there's you need to upgrade the track on the loop from Filton Abbey Wood to North Filton, but there's actually 4 tracks there and one going across and one going down. So it's a lovely area to develop, I think. So yes, and we note that the extra cost is due to having a big station at North Filton because of the anticipated footfall from Brabazon, so that needs extra money. Fully in support of that. Also, Henbury Station is flooding risk, and we very much welcome the delay because it's going to be designing a bike lane, as bike path, directly from Henbury up to Cribs Causeway. So we very much kindly were able to meet with officers earlier on. So yes, we really like that, that you're quite seriously taking phase 2 as a serious prospect, which is really going to transform transport around that area. Also note there's a freight terminal proposal to throw in the mix, so that's going to be so Suez Terminal, which is also known as the CETA plant, proposal by Western Gateway, which we'd like you to continue to fund, and Western Gateway has proposed having a freight terminal there, which will, and that's why we should really have this extra loop up to Severn Beach, because otherwise it's going to mess with passenger services. So yeah, I hope you can digest all that. Happy to talk separately about that. Just to also say, please, Metros phase 1 and 2 get DfT to take over the franchise. I'm not quite sure whether that was in your announcement just now. That would be amazing if so, but please watch the fare structure. Don't make it too much expensive at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate that. Statement number 5 is with Jackie Head.
Hello, I'm here on behalf of the True Valley CIC Sustainable Transport Partnership. I just want to say thank you for meeting with us earlier, Mayor Godwin. We really appreciate that. As you know from our meeting, we are very keen on getting statistics and getting accurate statistics, and that's what I wanted to talk about this afternoon. Obviously, you're looking at stats right now, you're looking at our services, you're working out, do we pay them in the future beyond March? And it really matters to us. And we're very concerned, the thing I want to raise now is we're very concerned about the functionality of ticketer machines. And I don't know if this is an issue that is affecting rural areas more than city areas. One of the things we wondered about was whether there's actually a capture issue that means that we're not getting the full data from ticketer machines. Bear in mind that most of the stops on our routes don't even have signposts, let alone phone signals, let alone bus stops. So I wanted to just draw your attention to some of the most concerning things recently that we've noted about the ticketer machines. One is that there are times when we've run reports and the organisation that the Big Lemon have run reports, and they've found discrepancies in the results at the end of the reports which ticketer can't explain to them. So that feels not okay. Secondly, it's really very common that they fail to register concessionary passes. Now, obviously, for our route, where we're trying to prove its social benefit, being able to show you how many concessionary passes have been used is really important. It's not picking that up, and an awful lot of the time it doesn't pick that up. And although a driver can press punch if they know the system's not working, we also know of situations where the drivers, and sometimes it's been senior managers driving that day, who put in all the accurate information and then have pulled off a report later in the day and no information has been recorded. It's really serious. It means that whatever it's showing of our numbers on these routes is seriously underreporting the reality. And we really want you to bear that in mind when you're looking at the figures for our routes. I think the other thing that's really crucial is that the ticketer machine feeds the tracker machine. And in a rural area, tracking a bus is absolutely vital. You're asking an awful lot of a customer to go and wait at an unmarked stop without a phone signal and trust that a bus is coming, when before they left home, they couldn't even see it on the tracker. So we really need this to be fixed. We raised this with the Scrutiny Committee. The question was answered saying that WECA was dealing with this with the Big Lemon. I'm here to report to you that in the 2 weeks since we raised that, they haven't got to the Big Lemon about this, although the Big Lemon have raised it with them. So please, can you chivvy that as well?
Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. The next statement is from Satya and Joshi.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. I'm here on behalf of the residents of Southwell and wish to speak about the South Bristol Livable Neighbourhood Scheme. You'll be pleased to know that I'm not going to recite my statement ad verbatim. So, but be that as it may, this morning I had a call from a friend. He's a cheeky sort. And he said, do you know what the definition of irony is? And I said, go on then. And he said, basically, it's making a perfectly livable neighborhood into a unlivable neighborhood and influencing the residents of that neighborhood to believe that it is currently unlivable. Now, I do not share the same cynical proclivities of my friends, but suffice it to say, what he said is very interesting. And this is the plight of the Southwell residents insofar as the SDLN is concerned. Basically, the Southwell community is being divided by a hugely controversial imposition. Now, why is it an imposition? It's an imposition because it's not underpinned by any tangible, real, unambiguous, clear evidence that a problem exists. This is a problem of cars using Southwell as some kind of a cut through, you know. And so what we have is a lot of problems that will be created by the current design if it were to be initiated. Furthermore, there's another problem, and that problem might stem from WECA and or the government, the Department of Transport, which is that there are rules in place which define how a livable low traffic neighborhood is created. And those rules are defining how this existing plan has come into being. And unfortunately, that plan is subdividing residents into 4 zones, like livestock. And I'm not convinced that is the way we should be conducting ourselves in this day and age. So there are numerous difficulties which arise from that. It's all in my statement. Please do consider it. But my humble plea is thus. My humble plea is that we take a rain check on this. Do not release the funding for this scheme until a community-led plan has been put into place, a plan that residents have had a chance to fully consider, and a place where no physical roadblocks have been initiated.
Okay, we'll have to leave it
Thank you
there,
very
but
much.
thank you. You've made your point really well. Thank you. Okay, and then we're moving to Caroline Dunn. Hi, Caroline.
Hello. I will stand up briefly because I really want to thank the Mayor for what I witnessed on Monday, her announcing the independent review. I think this is absolutely brilliant and much, much needed, and thank you very much. As it will be funded by her, it should indeed be independent. And while I don't want to reiterate everything in my brief and rather simplistic statement, can you please pay a special attention to my request for disabled people on it to make up at least 20 to 25% as the registered disabled people make up almost 25% of Bristol. I'm also very grateful to Helen because I want to stop having to always talk about the EBLN disaster, which has been particularly disastrous for the safety of disabled people and made their lives really, really difficult. I want to be able to come and be constructive and come and discuss ways to improve things. I don't want to have to come here and point out the obvious about the EBLN and why are these things happening. So please, can you actually pay very special attention to my remarks concerning disability hate crime training for drivers of all buses from all firms and understanding disability generally, training, special training for all bus drivers from all firms, because I hear the same problems time and again across the entire WECA region. And I am very sorry, while we have a lot of good bus drivers, the fact that I'm hearing so many of the same things is just appalling. I shouldn't be hearing any. Now, we can't rapidly change the buses. We can't rapidly change the disabled space signage. We can't change other members of the public who are not helpful to disabled people. But I would like to point out that in some of the stories I've been told, it is due to other members of the public, not the drivers, that disabled people have actually been able to get on certain buses. So I'm not saying that we come from a non-compassionate city. But what we can do is we can change driver attitudes and behaviours. So please, we can do that quite rapidly. So please, could you make it perhaps compulsory via contract specs? And with respect to disabled people, who are a very important part of the economy, and many of whom would like to actually get work and who face massive problems with actually getting a job, and the discrimination and the problems of access by employers, and even by employers who are happy to employ a disabled person. I'm sorry, I'll have to sit down.
It's okay.
You know, it is hard enough for disabled people to join in the economy in employment without having problems turning up, just actually getting there. And I understand that apparently they're talking about removing eye points from bus stops. Well, this will make things impossible for certain sections of the disabled community, rather obviously partially sighted and blind people, but a lot of disabled people rely on these anyway. So moving on, I do hope that you have the power to suspend the EBLN or stop it during the review, because apparently it has been legitimate for just one individual to extend it. This is not the spirit of democracy. In 2024 December, there was already so much opposition that they actually got a petition together that made them have to debate, the BCC have to debate it. That's really unusual. And this problem has not gone away. As I say, I feel these neighbourhood measures have to be very carefully thought through and implemented for citywide safety and our economy, which is being stifled, although the indicators are probably going to take time to show up. After 20 years of pedestrianisation, Bridgend in Wales is now disassembling the list for economic reasons.
Caroline.
So to finish, finally, it takes disabled people a lot to turn up and speak and regarding disability hate crime. I have heart failure because of it, and Melissa isn't here. Please remember that committee decisions can have the same sort of impact, and stop funding BCC until it listens to us and implements the PSED. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so the final statement today, statement number 8, that comes from Helen Hughes.
Hello, thank you for having me here today. My statement is also about basically my statement is about the use of power. And I think just listening to Caroline just now, people with disabilities in particular, but they're not the only ones, are definitely in danger of having power exercised over them and not having much ability to counter that and to stand up for themselves. And I really admire Caroline for standing up and sitting down and saying what she just did. I'll read my statement. So it's about power. Money is energy and power. If you have access to a lot of money and choose to inject it into a particular project, you can make life-changing things happen. These can be good things, they can also be bad things. As all Spider-Man fans know, with great power comes great responsibility. As a body which has great power over transport policy in the west of England through having the authority to make funding decisions, WECA has a great responsibility for the lives of all the people affected by these decisions. In 2022, WECA allocated £10 million to livable neighbourhood projects in Bristol. The implementation of the trial scheme in East Bristol has made drastic changes to people's lives. The stated aims were to change these lives by making them healthier, happier, and greener. The strategy chosen to make these changes is a very crude one. Health, happiness, and care for the natural environment have in effect been reduced to an attempt to force behaviour change, very crudely, from driving cars to walking, wheeling, and cycling. These are these 3-word phrases we have all the time from politicians at the moment. Money has been spent on the placing of impediments in residential streets to people who need to get to their destination by car, using boxes for plants, bollards, and ANPR camera systems. These measures have failed to take into account the manifold aspects to health, happiness, and the protection of nature that have nothing to do with the reduction in exhaust fumes or cars being driven above the speed limit. Health and happiness are most definitely compromised by these things, and at the same time attempting to eradicate dangers like this using a strategy that in itself actually increases other problems like stress, mental health issues. And I have spoken to people in East Bristol who have definitely mental health issues because of the EBLM. It's both pushing, so it's increasing exhaust and fume and dangerous driving on other roads, which is counterproductive and nonsensical. And the EBLN strategy has directly caused these things. And instead of admitting this, Bristol City Council is doubling down on the strategy and trying to do the same thing in South Bristol, as we've just heard, and you know how many questions you've received on that subject. So I have some suggestions. Basically, spend the money that you've been given by the government, central government, £150 million to invest in transport, to invest that in public transport, in buses, not on blocking roads. blocking roads is counterproductive, and it just really divides
I'm really
communities and
sorry,
causes
Helen,
stress.
time. So can I ask you just to wrap up if that's okay?
Sure, I've said this before in Bristol City County meetings, as Tony Dyer probably knows. Use carrots, don't use sticks. People will respond much better to you, and you'll have a better feeling yourselves about what you're doing, rather than forcing through change which people don't want because it doesn't support their lives.
Thank you.
I'm a permaculture designer. I'd be happy to help if you need me.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for those statements. I appreciate it. Caroline, you okay? All right. That's okay. Right, we must move on as we will all be here for a very long time. So item number 6 is comments from the Authorities Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So I'll ask Jerome if you have any comments at this stage.
Thank you very much, Helen, and good afternoon, everybody. I'll refer you to my written report for key elements of the Overview and Scrutiny meeting. I'll focus comments on the items that are being considered today. The first of those would be the kind of general finance and delivery report. So I think we're noting the government's commitment to allow CRSTS projects which have been contracted to roll over beyond that April 27 deadline, and that's of kind of real significance in terms of preventing that cliff edge that had been feared, or at least some elements of that cliff edge. So that feels really positive. We noted the Independent Remuneration Panel's report with regards to remuneration for the Deputy Mayor. The committee did raise concerns about value for money and stressed the importance of the kind of the rotating post holder putting in the work to earn that allowance. We then looked at the growth strategy and preparing for the future. The growth strategies are kind of really sort of, officers have done an excellent job of producing a high quality document in a short period of time. It's a comprehensive current state analysis of the state of the economy and of the prospects for the economy regionally. We note the authorities' kind of intention that it acts as a key reference point for decision making and planning, and it's useful to have that clarity. It is a 200-page document, and as with many documents of this length, it's kind of door stoppers. Like the Joint Local Transport Plan 4, there are concerns that it's too long to be properly useful and usable. And I think if you go back and look at JLTP4 and see how much of what was in there has actually been delivered and how much has it been used, it will be a useful kind of learning exercise. The authority doesn't have the resources to effectively monitor the large number of key metrics that have been identified. And I think more thought now needs to go into how this, really comprehensive document can be effectively used as a living document, so that the combined authority can play its part in delivering what we might call sustainable prosperity for the region, which kind of brings in the sort of Maggie's points about a balanced approach to quality of life, not just growth. In terms of some specific points in the growth strategy, the importance of skills development in the mainstream economy was stressed, particularly for some of our less privileged communities. As an example of an area holding the region back, David and I did some visits of our adult skills providers in the spring. We got a shortage of teachers for teaching electrical skills, which we know is a key choke point in the economy. And that's because the teaching pay scales don't compare with the wage levels for people working in the trade. And those are the sorts of sort of really crucial issues that the authority needs to be identifying as holding back growth in the region, and also the kind of quality of life and earning prospects for people in the mainstream economy. It's really good to have that focus on growth in particular areas, around Brabazon and the Western Innovation Arc. There was perhaps a shortage of focus on growth in the kind of general suburban areas, and perhaps a lack of sufficient recognition of the extent to which there are some key things holding the region back in terms of growth. One of those is transport congestion, and the other is the high housing costs, and both of those act as sort of real brakes on the long-term potential for the economy. So, you know, to reiterate again, it's an excellent, comprehensive document, and let's be able to use it as a living document that is referred to and updated. John Wilkinson presented to us sort of the latest plans for the approach on the spatial development strategy through to summer 26. And as we understood them, those are about commissioning evidence, establishing governance, having conversations with key stakeholders, and setting up the strategic planning board. We highlighted again the importance of anticipating those difficult and uncomfortable conversations. We know those tensions will arise around, in particular, where housing should go, and anticipating those conversations, addressing those conversations early, rather than waiting, you know, 9 or 12 months, and having regular high-level reporting, particularly around those hotspots, so that they can be addressed in an early and timely fashion before they become too serious as conflicts. The final papers that we were looking at related to transport delivery, CRSTS and transport for city regions. What we were told was that a high-level transport for city regions plan has been requested by government for December, though the details are a bit hazy about what level of detail would be needed. We are concerned that we don't yet have the plan consultation with the unitary authority portfolio holders and with scrutiny members before this government deadline. That we're concerned that these might be sort of thought of as officer delegated decisions. They're not. You know, these are crucial areas where strategic, political and scrutiny input is required early in the process. And it's essential that there's an acceptable level of political and scrutiny input into that approach before we're starting to sort of make commitments to government about what is in these funding buckets or not in the funding buckets. And just as a kind of one particular area, when we were talking about the expenditure buckets in the TCR indicative plans, there seemed to be a lack of emphasis on active travel as a bucket of expenditure. We think this should be challenged given the known benefits of active travel in beating congestion, reducing carbon emissions, and in promoting health and well-being. Those were the kind of key elements for your consideration in today's meeting. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerome. And I'll move now to invite the chair of the Audit Committee, Councillor David Wilcox, to address the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee met back on September the 15th. We had several public questions and statements expressing concern about the governance and procurement of the combined authority. Grant Thornton presented their interim report. The value for money assessment contained a number of elements. Financial sustainability. It had been rated well managed green with improved reserve levels after a surplus. Governance rated inadequate requirements, arrangements, and in red. While statutory recommendations had been removed, a significant step, two significant weaknesses remain due to the procedural issues and instances of deficiencies in 24-25. The MCA's organisational improvement plan was underway with a positive trajectory, and economy, efficiency and effectiveness rated managed effectively, and that was in amber. They had two key recommendations. One about the governance journey to ensure significant progress against all identified issues relating to governance by next year, and the CRSTS programme delivery to ensure arrangement for the CRSTS programme, currently facing issues of speed of spend, had traction and resulted in better outcomes. There was one improvement recommendation set out in the report as follows, and I'm going to read it verbatim. WECA should document the results of its review of appointment of contractors and implement additional controls to ensure that the correct procurement process is followed, particularly where contractors are appointed to roles that resemble those of employees. This should include consideration of procurement and IR35 regulations. This should be reported to the Audit Committee for review so that members can satisfy themselves that sufficient new controls have been implemented and the risk has been effectively mitigated. There follows some robust questioning of this report. Why the MCA received a red rating for governments after 8.5 years. The lifting of the best value notice was a positive step, but its impact was still being felt. There were concerns about the high level of exit payments. Grant Thornton is still investigating this. Why did the procurement breaches occur, and was there a sufficient governance in place? The CEO acknowledged a systematic problem around following rules and emphasised the organisational improvement programme's focus on internal controls. Grant Thornton hopes to bring the finalised findings to Audit Committee in December. We've covered some other stuff as well. The constitutional review. The committee approved the change to enable the MCA to electronically seal documents. The committee noted that this was just the tip of the iceberg regarding the number of amendments required to the Constitution, and emphasised that the committee must contribute to and be consulted on those modifications. The whistleblowing policy. We had the amended whistleblowing policy presented. We were concerned that until now there'd been no log or register for whistleblowing referrals. After a clarification that contractors to WECA could indeed make whistleblowing reports, and that 2 more people other than the monitoring officer could access the email inbox, and we noted that report. We also noted the review of the counter-fraud, bribery and corruption policy and strategy. We received a quarterly corporate risk review and noted that CRR 14, CRSTS programme delivery, was the highest rated risk, scoring 25. CRR 19 is also of concern to us, the risk of not achieving established strategic authority status. We would welcome further briefings on these matters. We welcome the corporate performance management update and would like to see more involvement for both overview and scrutiny and audit committees, as these committees were not part of the review cycle. The committee noted that evaluating the monitoring and evaluation framework update is an essential part of the process to ensure the smooth running of the combined authority. Key performance indicators drive the framework and must be closely linked to the growth strategy and outcomes framework. We will be receiving 12 monthly updates on the framework. Lastly, we noted the Treasury Management Monitoring Update. The statement indicated that the Mayoral Combined Authority currently held £496 million of invested funds, an increase of 34 million. The total investment income was 5.9 million, with an average return of 5.6%. The forecast income was 19.2 million, and that £47 million remained in strategic long-pooled funds, with a £5 million Treasury reserve for capital losses if the statutory override expired in 2029. The Audit Committee will meet again on December the 8th, 2025.
Thank you very much, David. Okay, so now we will move to the West of England Mayoral Combined Authority committee items 8 to 16. So in these items, Bath and North East Somerset, Bristol, South Gloucestershire and myself can vote on these items. Mike, I won't come to you for comment, but if you do wish to comment, you know you can. Excellent. Okay, and just because this is a bit of a longer meeting today, we will have a short comfort break, I think, after the first couple of items. So just so people are aware. So we move to item 8, which is the investment fund programme and grant assurance. So this paper updates on the overall investment fund programme and headroom. It outlines the current position with the investment fund programme and any new approvals. And the report also sets out the arrangements for the receipt and administration of new funding. The report includes the award of £2.2 million for the wider South West region to support business innovation. This new funding through the Department for Business and Trade Made Smarter programme is for 2026-27 to 2028-29. Made Smarter has already awarded and leveraged over £1.3 million public and private investment here in the West, and that helps dozens of small and medium-sized firms grow. This report also includes a bid to the government's Digital Inclusion Innovations Fund, which was £382,000 sought from the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology, known as DSIT, to upskill people, providing digital skills training through community digital hubs, working with the voluntary and community sector, and that will help more residents to become able to access online services, for example, banking and also employment searches. And I think that does link back to some comments from public statements as well. So before we move the item, I'll just offer the floor to my fellow leaders to see if anyone wishes to comment. Sarah.
Thank you, Helen. Yes, we're very happy to support the paper, particularly the move to reduce over-programming, which is prudent and ensures that our commitments remain within the funding envelope and avoid the risk of overextending. But specifically, I wanted to welcome the new allocations that have been made around low carbon and green recovery projects, including local wildlife sites, and 30% of our land managed positively for nature by 2030, as well as Mission Net Zero's industrial decarbonisation plan and the EU Horizon programme, aiming to integrate net zero technology and establish a local Green Deal. I'm particularly delighted to see funding being allocated for further a long-awaited electric vehicle charging in Bath and North East Somerset.
Brilliant. Thank you. Tony, did you want to come in?
Yes, just very briefly, I think the Digital Inclusion Innovation Fund that's included, I think it's very important. Data and device poverty is a new challenge for addressing inequality in our city and our region. And I think one of the things we worked out is this funding will allow Bristol, for example, to build on previously successful projects, allow us to distribute some 800 laptops to priority groups and establish 10 community digital hubs, which will allow people to have the same opportunities as others. And I think the other thing just quickly mention is about the rough sleeping prevention and recovery grant. Obviously, I recognise that records wearing this is relatively recently, but it's good to see. Obviously, we have much too high a number of households in temporary accommodation, and we also have about 500 people living in vehicles on our highways. So any additional funding to address rough sleeping is very welcome because it allows us to address those issues as well.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would endorse what colleagues have said on those issues. In addition, I'll highlight a couple of things. I'll follow up on what Tony is saying about the rough sleeping prevention and recovery grant funding, because we all know that right across the region there is a severe problem with homelessness, but each area has very different problems. You know, the rough sleeping tends to be concentrated, as we know, within the cities, but it is not unknown in the more urban and rural areas. And all our authorities have a great deal of expertise within them. So I would ask that expertise is tapped into so that we get that very local perspective when looking at the regional picture, because there are very different issues across the different types of area. And in terms of the electric vehicle infrastructure, I mean, it's very good that Bath and North East Somerset are taking up this the work that they're doing. I can see that in some areas it would be a real solution for those people that can't access the recharging. But again, I think it's one of those areas that could be quite difficult in some areas and cause community tensions. So again, although I very much welcome it, I think we need to work carefully with our communities on that one.
That's really helpful. Thank you, everyone. Do we have a mover for this item? Tony, and a seconder? Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so there are 14, I believe, recommendations. Excuse me, sorry. 14 recommendations, which are on pages 21 to 23 of the report. If everyone is happy, we can take them as a block. So all of those in favour, please show. And that is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, so now we will move to item number 9, delivery assurance. So this is a paper which considers changes to schemes within the investment fund programme against the agreed delivery assurance principles. So I'll just very briefly present this one to committee for approval. So does anyone have any comments on this one in particular? Tony, go for it.
Just very briefly, because sometimes there's something that looks like negative and actually is a positive. So the delay to the Culture Compact Startup Investment Phase 2 is actually reflects a positive outcome, which is the need to align this work so that it links in with the emerged and increased recognition of the benefits of the culture and creative industries, which has been outlined in the growth strategy.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Sarah or Maggie, do you want to add anything to that one? No. Sarah? No? Okay. Did we have a mover for item 9? Tony, seconder? Maggie? Okay. There's only one recommendation, which you can find on page 47. So all those in favour, please show. Lovely. Okay, so now we move on to item 10, which got a bit more pizzazz to it, I hope, as an item. This is the West of England Growth Strategy, which you can find on pages 67 to 284 of the packs. And I am very excited to be able to formally introduce this paper today. As we've discussed, we had a launch very recently, but this is now the formal introduction of the strategy. This strategy is intended to set the direction for the West of England to deliver economic growth and to improve the lives of people across the region. We are looking to create 72,000 new jobs and 28% economic growth for the West over the next 10 years. That doesn't mean anything unless it happens, and it doesn't mean anything unless people can feel and see that difference. This strategy is in response to the government request for all mayoral combined authorities to set out how they will grow and contribute to UK PLC. It's not about growth for growth's sake. Growth can sometimes feel very abstract and a long way from everyday life, but our strategy, I think, is proudly straightforward. It's about everyone. It's about working together to secure the investment to make a difference that we can all see and feel in communities across the West Country. And it's about ensuring that everyone, and particularly our young people, can see a pathway into work, to the careers that they want and the jobs that we need. All of this, all of our ambition is for those young people to make sure that we are creating a thriving place for them to succeed in and to feel safe in. We've discussed our growth sectors. They are at the heart of our plan for growth, and they are advanced manufacturing, digital and technology, clean energy, and the creative industries. And I'm hopeful that they all feel very familiar by this point. I also want to take the time to highlight our extraordinary everyday economy. In my view, these are the people that keep this region running. These sectors support every aspect of life here, but often go unrecognised and sometimes are taken for granted. 57% of our jobs in our region are in the everyday economy, and that's worth more than £16 billion per year. So that's hospitality, that's the visitor economy, that's construction, that's retail, that's distribution. But it's far more important than economics. It's the contribution of people who work in health and education, childcare, and the voluntary sector. It's absolutely priceless to us. We couldn't live the lives we do if we didn't have that sector thriving. This document also sets out our growth zones. That's not to say that growth doesn't exist and shouldn't exist in other areas, but these are the focus geographies. So we have talked about already the West Innovation Arc, Central Bristol and Bath, the Severn Estuary, the Somer Valley, and of course the North Somerset Growth Gateway. They are a network of regional growth zones, and they will be central to our decade of growth. That will open up a whole wealth of new opportunities for businesses, for residents right across the West of England. I've also set out the flurry of announcements since our growth strategy launched, but also want to make sure that we acknowledge this week's big announcement that Lloyds Banking Group have confirmed Bristol as their AI capital, which is a really important step. It's a very big moment as we work towards establishing the UK's first AI supercluster, and to have the confidence of an organisation such as Lloyds Banking Group, who are also such a big employer in the region, is really, really significant. I also want to highlight that the strategy does include a defined set of actions that we will take to deliver. Those actions can be found right at the front of the document. I think there are about 61 in total. I think they're very clear. I think they're plain English, and I think they already give us a really strong roadmap to delivery. We also, in the report, have included an outcomes framework. And that is essentially the work plan that sits along the growth strategy that will help us to deliver. So I would encourage everyone to have a look at that, because that's what we can all use to demonstrate what success will look like. The outcomes framework will provide an enduring set of metrics that will be consistent over time to enable effective reporting. So when we talk about scrutiny and audit, and also internally in the UAs and in the combined authority, that will be our key document. So we will use that to track the performance of the region against these ambitious targets. They are ambitious, but that is okay. We can be confident, we can be ambitious, we can move the region forward, and that's what we're looking forward to doing. Maggie, would you like to add anything?
No, thank you, Helen. I think you've set out a really good comprehensive overview of the document, and it is a really ambitious document, and I welcome that. I think you know, it gives us exciting opportunities for the future with a strong base to work from. And South Gloucestershire obviously features quite large in that, with the Western Innovation Arc and the Severn Estuary as part of our area, and we're really looking forward to continuing to work on that. And on that basis, I want to thank you, everybody here, for working so collaboratively, because you know, while we all have these areas within our own authorities, I think we can all see the value of each other's contribution to this, and you know, that collaborative approach, I think, will serve us well if we can continue that when we develop the outcomes framework and so on. And I also welcome that Helen's just emphasised that one of the points that I made at the beginning, that whilst this productivity growth is important, economic growth just for the sake of it would be the missed opportunity. And we need to make sure that the benefits of the prosperity are felt by everyone through more and better jobs for our residents. And I think key to this will be our approach to education and skills. We really need to push forward on that front. I think you know, the rate and amount of development will be that area will be absolutely crucial, and of course to develop that transport network alongside it will be key. So I very much welcome this, and thank everybody for working so hard on it. And I know officers have put in an amazing amount of work quite quickly on this.
Yes,
so thank you.
I definitely do. Thank you so much, Maggie. Sarah.
Yes, so I wanted to welcome the growth strategy and the positive collaboration between WECA and the unitary authorities in developing it, because it does represent a new approach to thinking about how we invest as a region, and look forward to working together to drive investment in our growth zones. I particularly wanted to welcome the strong emphasis it places on climate and nature, reflecting the fact that the natural environment is a key regional asset in one of the greenest regions in England. I also welcome its focus on sustainable and inclusive growth, which aligns closely with our own economic strategy in Bath and North East Somerset. I'm looking forward to further development of detailed investment plans for the funding themes and investment opportunities identified. And specifically, I'm really pleased to see the commitment to lead in renewable energy. I understand the proposed 2035 objective set out in the plan of 135 megawatts is based on existing trajectories, but I'm sure we all agree that there should be no ceiling on how our ambition to ensure a low carbon future for the city region. So I'd like to see the WECA Climate and Nature Board come up with a stretched target that reflects our region-wide commitment to net zero, to really challenge us all on this. And I'd welcome a collaborative approach to fleshing out further detail around the investment themes identified. I think that the recent transport workshops have shown how well close working between our officers and members from both combined and unitary authorities can work. I'm also particularly delighted to see recognition of the Heat from Mines project. I'd like to see us build on the positive feasibility study and see how this project can take infrastructure from our industrial heritage and use it to contribute towards our low carbon future. It's been another great example of collaborative working, and it's revealed real potential to use the heat from mines under the Summer Valley to create a low carbon heat network at the Summer Valley Enterprise Zone. There's only one existing example of mine heat recovery in the UK. So the West of England has an opportunity to show real innovation and leadership in this space, linking up our clean energy sector ambitions with our rural innovation growth zone. And support from WECA for feasibility could catalyse private investment to bring this forward. So our major concern is around funding for delivery of the growth strategy in 2026 and 27. So whilst these plans are developed, so that we don't lose momentum. So we'd really welcome your support, Helen, for a reasonable transitional approach across the region. It's vital that as we interface between the old funding plans and the new ones, that we maintain core teams of staff to deliver on this work so that we can sustain our work against our shared priorities, supporting businesses, local high streets and the everyday economy. So thank you, but very supportive of the strategy overall.
Thanks, Sarah. Tony.
Thank you, Mel. I think, as others have said, France needs to be given to the significant amount of work that's gone into producing the growth strategy. I know that officers at Bristol have worked incredibly hard to produce this, and I'm sure that's the same for all the other unitary authorities and the combined authority as well. There's lots to be proud of in this document. It's positive that the document also recognises that regional growth isn't only about investing in the high-tech industries, as important as they are, but showing economic success fairly as well and inclusively. I think fundamental to tackling the and growing the region inclusively is tackling the barriers that our children and young people face in accessing education, employment and housing. Particularly additional barriers our care leavers face who are now a protected characteristic in Bristol. The document refers to mass transit, which is going to be absolutely essential to regional growth, whatever it may look like.
Don't go there today.
No, I'm not going to. At present, we do have connectivity issues in several parts of the region, and I mentioned that earlier in reference to Artcliffe. But if we can introduce a transit system that addresses these inequalities and also boosts economic inclusive growth, that'd be a win for people and the economy. Also, I'm pleased that Temple Quarter is identified in there as part of the Bristol the Bath connection. Two cities that are rivals in many ways, but also work well together as well, as this document is shown. And the investment strategy, and also I think in particular the West of England, getting the West of England working plan is also vital elements of this. So yeah, thank you very much for all the work that everybody's done into it. It's an exciting document. Now it's just all we have to do is deliver it.
That's all. That's all. Mike, did you want to come in on that one?
So, only if Tony doesn't keep turning my microphone off, because that's opposite. Yeah, I will chip in, and I'm going to agree with everything that everybody's already said, which is just as well, because I don't get a vote on this, so I'm relying on you guys to do the right thing. I mean, in North Somerset, we like to talk about good growth, because growth for its own sake, as colleagues have said, is not always good, is it? And when we talk about good growth, we mean good for the people who already live in our area, helping to tackle inequality and make sure that everyone feels better off and enjoys the benefits of living in what is Britain's best region, but good for future generations as well, our children and young people and the new residents of the future. The North Somerset Growth Gateway, which is featured strongly in the growth strategy, obviously links together the £400 million European headquarters of EPIC, Long Ashton, which is under development at the moment, bringing new investment, new jobs to North Somerset, all the way down to the Junction 21 enterprise area in Weston-super-Mare. Weston-super-Mare, which is a place that's growing to reach 100,000. So we need to start reframing the vision of Weston-super-Mare, not as this Victorian seaside resort, but actually as a city by the sea with a big, educated, increasingly younger population who are looking for people to come and invest and help grow our economy. There's something like £5 billion worth of private sector investment opportunities available in North Somerset at the moment. So let's use the growth strategy across the region as the springboard to unlock some of that. And I think that's the two final things I would say. It's great that we've got the growth strategy, but if we're going to bring that to life and make it more than just words and a plan on the paper, we've got to unlock the investment. So we've got to collectively make the case for government investment to move forward on some of these big infrastructure projects that we need, but also private sector investment too. You know, we have benefited over the years from a lot of successful private enterprises, but we could do more and we could do better. So we need to ramp up our messaging on that. And lastly, I think there's the piece about how do we then get that transport vision that underpins that too? Because again, I think we do loads of good stuff. We've heard a lot about it from some of the public speakers around bus services, lots of investment that you're spearheading, Helen, in terms of our rail network. But how do we get that fitted together so that not only have we got the growth, but that people can get to it and enjoy the benefit of that?
Fabulous. Thank you very much for those contributions, and thank you for the positivity. I think it's really important that as a region we go out and we are extremely positive and upbeat about what we can offer, not just to the rest of the country, but also the rest of the world. I'm going to look at Maggie this time for a mover. So Tony gets in there. Thank you. And a seconder. Excellent. Thank you very much. There are 4 recommendations. They're set out on page 67. And again, we can take them as a block if everyone is happy. So all those in favour, please show. Super. Okay, so that is carried. So we'll take one more item and then we'll have a short comfort break if everyone is okay with that. So item 11 is preparing for our future, which links obviously to item 10. That's on pages 285 to 296 of the agenda pack. So this report essentially sets out a range of proposals that will help put the combined authority on a footing to deliver on the ambition of the growth strategy, which we've just discussed. So we've already, I hope everyone agrees, made great strides together since May, including working more closely in partnership with North Somerset, welcoming record transport funding for our part of the world, and also beginning to work on joint projects that will deliver for our residents. So this paper really sets out how we will continue to do that work. Council leaders are set to take on enhanced regional roles in this new chapter of genuine partnership. That will mean that we can secure more investment, we can get our region moving and make a real difference that communities can see and can feel. As part of our roadmap towards expansion, I was pleased to see that North Somerset's full council meeting agreed to explore the consultation process on joining WECA, and we continue to speak to government about that process, and we'll update committee when we have proposals to consult on. North Somerset joining the strategic partnership with Homes England is another important element of this work that we welcome. Alongside the work to consider expanding the combined authority, listening to the voices of local residents and businesses, it's vital that we catch up with the other city regions. Evolving as an authority will help enable our area to secure the greater powers and funding that are currently being devolved to places like West Yorkshire and the West Midlands. And the only way we can deliver more for our residents is if we can secure more devolution. And the only way we can do that is if we are prepared both as an organisation and in the unitaries to continue to collaborate and move forward at pace. Does anyone else wish to speak to this report? Maggie, I'll go to you first.
Thank you. Very briefly, I absolutely support this. I think that the new structures will help us to work more as a cohesive whole. I think there was a certain amount of disjointedness previously, so I very much welcome that, and it will help move towards more of a portfolio style of leadership. So that's fine. And I think from what we've heard from Mike Bell earlier, that the prospect of North Somerset joining us, I would see as a very natural move forward. That we've heard how much synergy really there is across the piece. So obviously there are caveats to that, because nobody wants to lose out by going through that process. But hopefully we can work through those details so that we can we can all move forward together for the betterment of the whole region.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. I agree with all of that. Tony, do you have any comments on this one?
I'll be very brief. I think this paper demonstrates much of the good work that's been done to take the West of England Combined Authority forward into a fully fledged combined authority with the maturity, powers and scope to deliver positive change for residents in the West of England. I think this reflects, as Maggie said, the strong collaboration between members of this committee. Obviously, our ambition is to reach established status and secure access to an integrated settlement. And this reflects the goal is vital for our long-term reason of success. So I think progressive steps also to expand the combined authority to formally include North Somerset, who frankly should always have been in there from the beginning, but that's another matter, is very welcome from my point of view, and I think all of us.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, I'm very happy to support the plans to improve delivery and governance with a view to moving towards established strategic authority status. And I think in Bath and North East Somerset, we feel that bringing in North Somerset and updating the advisory boards makes a lot of sense. And it will just be important that the funding settlement reflects the additional population who are joining us, but we're really keen to work together to help the region succeed. We also welcome the new business board and want to see broad geographic representation, so it has a voice for business across the region. It's important that we have strong engagement and collaboration across our shared objectives. And then I'm also pleased to see the wider refresh of the other boards, including a climate and nature board, with the importance emphasised of the environment as a cross-cutting theme across the work of all boards. And I look forward to hearing how the revised staffing structure will effectively support this aim. So I'm very happy also to see the plan for a much needed constitutional review, and we'd like to see clear unitary authority member involvement, but all in all a very positive report.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Do we have a mover for this report? Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. And a seconder? Brilliant, thank you, Maggie. So for reasons that are way above my head, there are quite complicated voting arrangements for this one, but there are 9 recommendations. They are on pages 285 to 286. We can take them in a block in groups according to the voting arrangements if everyone is happy. But recommendations 1 to 4 need to have a majority with me in it. 8 is a simple majority, and 5, 6, 7 and 9 are just for noting. So recommendations 1 to 4 we can take as a block, and for this we need to have a majority, and with me included in the majority. So all those in favours, please show. Lovely. 5, 6, 7 and 9 are for noting, and 8 simple majority required, but all those in favour, please show. Lovely. So they are all carried. So if everyone is okay, we'll take a short comfort break now for 5 minutes and come back at 2:30 for the rest of the agenda. Thank you. coming back in the room. So we're going to go straight into item number 12, which is the spatial development strategy. Everyone would have heard us talk a little bit about this already, but this report is aiming to provide committee members with an update on work on the spatial development strategy, and also seeks steers on early programme development. This is a really important piece of work for our region. It sets out our approach to new homes and to growth, ensuring that communities have the right infrastructure, both physical and other services. And it's also a really important document for our natural environment and climate resilience work. People in the room will know that the region has tried and failed at this twice before, but central government are very clear with us this time that we must get it done, and our residents deserve for us to do it and to get it right. We can only do that by working together, by continuing the collaborative working we're already starting to see, so that we can secure the best outcomes possible. We've had initial meetings with leaders, CEOs and senior officers to help start the conversations about the SDS process. Working at a regional level in partnership, building on top of the local plans that in each of our UAs, is essential to developing a successful plan that reflects our complementary approaches and the shared challenges. It's worth highlighting the timelines that we have to work through, being mindful of the election cycle and our engagement work. Governance is also outlined in the paper, underlining the importance of member engagement at the right stages, external challenge, officer working and public engagement, all of which we've put an awful lot of thought and effort into getting that right along with our UA colleagues. But as I explained at a previous meeting, there is so much more to delivering an SDS than it being a technocratic exercise for planners. This will be the way to shape our region's growth, our communities and our green spaces for decades to come. So I'll invite others to speak. Tony, I'll start with you.
Thank you. Obviously, we support this paper. It's a positive first step towards delivering the SDS, so the Spatial Development Strategy for the West of England region. It's essential that we establish those strong working principles and clear timelines and robust governance processes to guide this important piece of work, which you refer to. I have to say, delivering affordable housing, and that's really affordable housing, is obviously a key priority both for Bristol as a city, but for the wider region. And providing our residents with the opportunity to live in safe, high-quality homes must be the heart of the approach, and those homes need to be both climate safe and fire safe. Any areas in need identified, we need to address as a region. And I think, Bristol obviously sits at the centre, but we're also very closely connected to all of our neighbours, and we look forward to working with them as we move forward on the spatial development strategy. I think it's something that we all know is long overdue and is vitally important to take forward.
Brilliant, thank you. Maggie, do you want to add anything?
Yes, thank you. I certainly support this paper and the three recommendations that are relating to it. That's the joint working principles, which I think we've already established are absolutely key to everything we do. And those draft timelines and proposed governance arrangements will be equally important. I mean, there is no way that putting together an SDS is going to be easy. Anybody that's ever been involved in planning knows that you hit some bumpy patches, but I think we start with the goodwill to get on with it, and because we all know that having an SDS will present a significant step forward for the region, and it's long been needed, that coordinated approach to the future planning of homes and jobs and transport infrastructure, and largely because people don't live within the administrative boundaries. The larger region is absolutely key to this. We know as well that there are no easy options, particularly on the housing front. Each constituent council has had its problems with finding space for more housing, and we know that we're going to have to continue to do that in the future. And we've all got constraints to that. I mean, the city has got some very obvious ones, but you know, the other areas have significant constraints in terms of flood risk and green belt and areas of outstanding natural beauty, and very significant constraints on the strategic road network, which in terms of other documents we've already spoken of. So as I say, this is not going to be an easy exercise, but I think we're all determined to get on with it and produce a document now. But development plans don't just operate in isolation. So I'm pleased to see that the report makes a specific reference to the fact that any work on this must not undermine the local plans of constituent councils, but should build on them. There has been an enormous amount of time and effort from members and officers with those local plans. So to not take all that work on board would be really quite wasteful. We're in South Gloucestershire. We're right at the point of submitting our plan to the Planning Inspectorate. So we'll hopefully have that determined sort of sometime next year. But having an effective and up-to-date local plan helps protect the district from speculative development and planning by appeal. And I mean, housing is delivered in the most sustainable locations with schools and health and transport issues all considered, but crucially that it is done in a planned way to the standards that we require. Yeah. And I think the SDS should be able to give us an extra layer to manage that process.
Brilliant, thank you. Sarah, did you want to add anything?
Yes, just a few words. I mean, we welcome this proposal for a joined up future across the region, and we're very supportive of the emphasis that Tony mentioned on truly affordable homes, acknowledging the impact of housing prices on the economy. We in Bath and North East Somerset are currently out to consultation on our own local plan options, and we think that clear communications are going to be key to ensure that the public understands the aims of this strategy and our local plans. Very supportive.
Brilliant, thank you. And I should have said in my introduction that the STS does include North Somerset. We've been mandated by the former minister that it should include North Somerset, but we are also delighted by that, of course. So Mike, do you want to add anything to this one?
I mean, only to acknowledge exactly what you've just said, Helen, and it's really pleasing that we're involved and included in this process. You know, it goes hand in hand with the growth strategy, doesn't it? And our future ambitions around transport, which we'll also talk about later. And I really appreciate the collaborative way that this has been undertaken so far. And I completely endorse what Maggie was saying about the importance of using this as to build upon the work that the UAs have already done around local planning, and not to lose the connection with our communities. We know how invested our communities are in getting local planning policies right, and that must inform SDS too.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so do we have a mover for this one? Thank you, Sarah, and a seconder? Thank you, Maggie. There are 3 recommendations. They're set out on page 297, and we can take them in a block if everyone is happy. All those in favour, please show. Okay, that is carried. Thank you very much. So moving swiftly on to item 13, this is the Mayoral Combined Authority and Mayoral Budget Forecast 2024-25. This can be found in pages 309 to 336 of the report. This report represents the revenue and capital forecast for the West of England Combined Authority for the financial year 25-26, based on data from the period April 2025 to July 2025 for both the West of England Mayoral Combined Authority and mayoral budgets. I won't say any more on that one. Does anyone else wish to comment? You tempted, Sarah?
No.
Okay, do we have a mover? Do we have a seconder? Thank you. There's one recommendation which is on page 309, which is for noting So no vote, but please can committee members confirm it's noted. Super, thank you. Okay, item number 14. This is the recommendations of the Independent Remuneration Panel, which is known as the IRP. This report is on pages 337 to 346. So this, the ask here is to consider the report and the recommendations of the authority's Independent Remuneration Panel in respect of the Deputy Mayor's allowance. As I announced at my swearing in, the Deputy Mayor role will be a rotating role that will rotate between the leaders of each of the local councils during my term. So as part of that process, an independent panel convened to consider the responsibilities of the role. The Deputy Mayor is unfortunately not with us today. He is on a very long planned holiday. But I would, I think on his behalf, like to thank members of the panel also for their time. Does anyone want to comment on this paper? No? No? Okay. In that case, we just require someone to move it. Tony, and someone to second it. Aggie. One recommendation, page 337. So all of those in favour, please show. And that is also carried. Okay, item 15, which is an amendment to the Constitution. This can be found on pages 347 to 352. And this paper seeks approval of an amendment to our Constitution. It's very controversial, set out in paragraph 7 of this report, which is to enable electronic sealing by the combined authority. There's not much more to say about that, but obviously it's good to see progress. I think the Audit Committee have, as David confirmed earlier, they have also approved this change. So again, I don't know if we have any comments on this one.
I wish I could find something exciting to say about it.
Exactly. Oh, sorry, Bob. Sorry, it's very, very exciting.
Very important.
Maggie, will I ask you to move it instead?
Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, second it. Okay. One recommendation, page 347, and unanimous voting is required, chaps. So okay. Let's make sure we get this one right. All those in favour. There you go, Bob, your day is made. That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we've just got 2 items left today, but at this point, I do need to highlight that this next item has appendices with exempt information. If the committee wishes to discuss elements of these appendices, then a resolution will need to be passed to go into exempt session. Is everyone happy that we continue in public session? Yeah. Right, okay. So item 16 is transport delivery. The report can be found on pages 353 to 384. This provides an update on key transport schemes and to secure approval from committee on critical decisions and associated funding where applicable within the West of England Transport Infrastructure Programme. The transport paper is quite a complex paper, this, so I'll try and break it down, but it's in 3 parts. We've got City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement, which essentially is rebaselining the programme, which is more commonly known as CRSTS. We've got Transport for City Regions and allocating the funding, and that is more commonly known as TCR, and that is the new programme that will come into play in 2027. And we've got the approval of the Metro West Phase 2 full business case. The CRSTS programme is a funding programme of £540 million that was allocated to the region in 2022 to deliver improved transport infrastructure. The programme was put together with a strict end date for construction completion by March 2027. So effectively, when the programme was put together, the expectation was that all works had to be completed by March 2027. In June this year, we received the news of £750 million of funding in the Transport for City Regions programme for further transport projects for delivery between 2027-28 and 2031-32. So that is in effect the follow-on programme from CRSTS. In July last year, in line with guidance from the Department for Transport, it was decided to over-programme CRSTS and put more schemes into the programme to ensure that the full allocation was spent by March 2027. I hope everyone's following me. Alongside the planned over-programming, some of the anticipated final costs are now higher too. So we put more into the programme to make sure that we could spend the money by March 2027. And obviously, some of those costs have also gone up by quite some significant amounts in that time as well. Since this time, the Department for Transport have issued some guidance on how they expect the transition between the two programmes to be managed. And a critical change for us was the move from construction completion by March 2027 to projects needed to be contractually committed by that time. So in effect, projects can roll over beyond March 2027, but they must be contractually committed by that time. So this is a positive step for programme delivery, but it does bring some challenges for us in terms of prioritisation. So we have therefore instigated a rebaselining of the programme to enable us to submit a change request to the Department for Transport to confirm how much would now be spent after March 2027. Following discussions with the unitary authorities, we developed a technical approach relating to applying optimism bias to the entire programme, depending on the stage of each project. And we have now an agreed position, which is presented in the report. This means effectively that the unitary authorities have the money to spend well and effectively in the way that they want to, including additional funding that wasn't originally asked for. This allows us to stand by our previous commitment to underwrite the programme to March 2027, and now means that we can start the detailed planning for those programmes and also going into TCR. So there are implications for the TCR programme as a contribution is required from that fund to complete those original projects. This is really important because the TCR funding of almost £750 million is our region's best opportunity to achieve its full potential and drive economic growth. Together, we need to accelerate plans to secure better buses, deliver more trains and railway stations, and give local people proper alternatives to their cars. Trams, metro buses, rail, light rail, and guided buses are all on the table to make that a reality. TCR is our opportunity to make that happen. We need to maintain that ambition and in this programme and ensure that we finally deliver a transport network that people can rely on and better still feel proud of. An example of this is the paper's proposals for funding and approvals for the Metro West 2 rail project. This step forward for North Filton and Henbury stations will help us get the leap we need for rail in our region. The next stage of that includes opening North Filton station, further detailed design work on Henbury station, track and signalling upgrades between Filton, Abbey Wood and North Filton. I would like to thank everyone involved in this process. It has been especially complex, sometimes difficult, but it has shown how we intend to use the funding that we have to make a difference. And it does show that we are maturing in our approach to looking at challenges like this on a regional level. But most importantly, it will give us the opportunity to make a difference to residents' lives. I'd like to remind committee members at this point that there is an exempt appendix for this paper, but I will ask colleagues if they wish to speak. I'll start with Tony.
Thank you, Ellen. I think what I'm about to say reflects the new maturity of the West of England Combined Authority, because we are going to be moving forward. I think this rebaselining exercise was necessary and I supported it. But as we get closer to March 27 and we agree on our principles for our new TCR programme, it's only right that we do review how that funding has been allocated so far. And I think as we move forward, we'll become stronger in how we work together on doing that going forward. I do have to recognise that the way the baselining has been done, it will adversely impact the pipeline of projects Bristol is delivering. we know Bristol is one of the most poorly connected and congested core cities in the country. This problem affects everyone in our region. It denies many of our residents opportunities to show in the success of our cities and our region, and it does put a brake on regional economic growth. I think our members and officers across all the unitary authorities and the combined authority have worked really hard over the last few years to develop a robust and deliverable pipeline of transport projects to connect our city and unlock growth. All through the reduction of funding to Bristol is disappointing because it does leave with less money to deliver those projects. They are important for the whole region because regional transport services more often than not pass through Bristol. These projects have already been agreed with the DfT, and we need to show we can deliver what we have committed to. And I look forward to us progressing 4 business cases as quickly as possible for schemes that we are able to bring forward. I think we also need to get moving on those projects as quickly as possible for the reasons you outlined. Enabling the mass transit system for our region is one of the key investment opportunities as recognised in our regional growth strategy. And getting there will require big projects and large amounts of investment. But I can assure you that our network management team, and I'm sort of right across the region, will do everything they can to manage the period of delivery and keep the city and the region moving. I mean, we recognise that money is tight. Even hundreds of millions of pounds don't go too far. I think we could have spent this money quite a bit more if we looked at all the potential opportunities, given the cost of delivering the mass transit infrastructure we need. But I also recognise that Helen has a critical role to play in speaking for all the areas represented, and we have, as members of the West of England Combined Authority Committee, also have to recognise that we're able to represent the region as well as our unitary authorities. And I think that it is a sign of the growing strength of this organisation that I am able to support this report, and that working collaboratively with Ellen and the other authorities, we will agree an approach for TCR so we can make sure it delivers what the regions need. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tony. Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. We're hugely supportive, of course, of these various programmes improving sustainable transport infrastructure, and particularly welcome the extension of the deadline for delivery of the existing schemes in progress, as well as the progress that's noted in the report on important schemes in Bath and North East Somerset, such as Scholars Way, the Bristol-Bath Corridor, and Somer Valley Links. And whilst we welcome the Metro West 2 project bringing forward 3 stations in the Bristol area, I'd like to just remind everyone really of the importance of future work as part of the TCR on a new station for Saltford. The other thing to say is that is to emphasise that new bus infrastructure needs reliable and frequent buses to make use of it, as we've heard earlier today. And at national level, of course, the bus industry really continues to struggle to meet the needs of residents of all parts of our region to get sustainably and affordably to the places they need to go, whether it's to school, to college, to work, to healthcare appointments, to the shops, or to go out and have fun in the evening. And we've been working incredibly constructively, I think, together with WECA officers as a group of unitary authority members on the future of bus services. But I hope that, Helen, that you'll be able to help behind the scenes, perhaps continuing to lobby government on our behalf at the highest level, not only for sufficient funding to support the bus industry as a whole, but also for multi-year funding settlements to support the establishment of new services, and for us in WECA to have access to new and innovative models of provision, giving local government greater powers to ensure the sector delivers an appropriate service for all of our residents, even those in rural areas. So we very much look forward to continuing to work closely with the new Director of Bus Operations at WECA to ensure the bus network meets the needs of our residents across both the rural and urban parts of our region. So very happy to support the paper. It's just a hugely important area for our whole economy.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we support the rebaselining of the CRSTS programme and the use of optimism bias to manage cost uncertainty and ensure value for money. In South Gloss, we remain firmly committed to delivering as much of the programme as possible before March 2027, and hope this helps to demonstrate to government that our region can deliver, but it will also help minimise disruption and maximise the benefits of investment for our residents, which we must never forget our residents and businesses in all this. But the flexibility to extend funding beyond March 2027 for those contractually committed schemes is welcome, as it will help us manage construction impacts and allow time for that essential snagging and safety audits that will inevitably follow on. The current CRSTS programme is enabling us to invest heavily in transport infrastructure, but we also need to make sure people are supported to use and benefit from the schemes. So we've got change requests there that we would welcome that collaboration across our partnership to support that behaviour change initiative, so that we can get our people, our communities adopting new travel choices, because that will be essential to make our highway system work. In terms of the TCR scheme, we also welcome the delegation to directors, as it's important that we continue to move at pace and collectively deliver. Our transport modelling shows that without intervention, traffic demand in South Gloss could rise by 23% by 2042. I mean, that is just really a frightening increase. So we do need to push these schemes through, because not only is it traffic demand at 23%, but car trips will go to a 28% increase, which is crazy. So this highlights that urgent need to manage our road space more efficiently and shift the focus from moving cars to moving people. So we welcome the TCR programme's focus on that transformational infrastructure and ask that the partnership prioritise commitment to the transport mitigation schemes that are set out in our local plan. Little bid here, but because we've, in particular, the Ring Road package on the A4174, which is our East Fringe, is where the local plan allocates most of the housing and employment growth, which obviously supports the authorities, this authority's growth plan. So in accordance with that growth strategy, it's developing a mitigation strategy that focuses on encouraging mode shift and reducing traffic demand along this key orbital route. If I move on to Metro West, I also support the 4 recommendations there, including approval for full business case and the drawdown of funding to enable a move towards a 15-minute rail connection from Brabazon to the centre of Bristol. North Filton and Henbury stations will be key components of creating that world-class city district at the West Innovation Arc, and a corridor of connected development across Brabazon, transform Bristol Parkway Station and the Bristol Bath Science Park, underpinned by new sustainable transport. If we don't get that transport right, our whole plan will fail. So we really do need support to get that right, because it's a once in a generation opportunity, we think, to deliver that sustainable growth that will really support the whole region.
Lovely, thanks, Maggie. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, jump in. Sorry.
I was just gonna add a couple of points. I mean, firstly, can I just say it's fantastic that there are a number of transport projects in North Somerset where we continue to work closely with the support of the other unitary authorities and WECA. Obviously, Portishead Peel to Bristol Rail Line, Banwell Bypass as well. Big projects, big investments in transport that have been a long time in the talking, and it's great that together we are now in the delivery. I just wanted to highlight points 22 and 23 in the report around the importance of securing some additional TCR contributions to reflect North Somerset's position. At the moment, we've heard from colleagues about there's not enough money in the pot to do what we want. There definitely isn't enough money in the pot to do what we want in North Somerset. At the moment, we're not included in the TCR allocation. We've had a local transport fund allocation of about £10 million. That's about 160 to 170 million short of what a fair allocation based on what we've set out in the growth strategy and our population need would entitle North Somerset to. We want that to be in the gift of the combined authority to work with us to deliver. So I hope that you will absolutely use your contacts with government to lobby for that uplift to recognise North Somerset's position, and then we can hopefully do more collectively, but in particular to deliver what North Somerset wants to deliver as part of the wider growth strategy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Do we have a mover for this report? Tony, thank you. Seconder? Sarah, thank you. So there are 10 recommendations on pages 353 to 355, and these can all be taken in a block if everyone is happy. So all those in favour, please show. Lovely, that is carried. Thank you very much to everyone for your work on that one in particular. Now we move on to a joint committee item. Welcome, Mike. So North Somerset is able to vote in this as well as, of course, contribute. I need to highlight that this item has appendix with exempt information. And if the committee wishes to discuss elements of these appendices, then a resolution will need to be passed to go into exempt session. Is everyone happy that we continue on public session? Tony, are you happy?
Yes.
Ready? Yeah, great. Okay, so this is item number 17. This is the Joint Committee Budget Forecast 2025-26, pages 385 to 410 of your pack. This report represents the revenue and capital forecast of the West of England Joint Committee budgets for the financial year 25-26 and is based on data from the period April 25 to July 2025. So the highlights of this are a one-year extension to the Invest Bristol Bath service, to the Southwest Net Zero Hub, and Metro West Phase 2, which we've already mentioned in the CRSTS conversation, but is also considered in this paper. Necessary change request approvals are also included at Appendix 4. Does anyone else wish to comment on this item?
I'm just happy to get a vote.
Lovely. Anyone else? No? Okay, super. Mike, do we have a mover?
Yes.
Lovely. Any seconders? Thanks, Tony. Okay, so this is another complex voting one, I'm afraid. There are 6 recommendations. They are on pages 385 to 386, different voting arrangements. Recommendations 1 and 6 are for noting. 2 and 5 are without me. I've no idea why. 3 and 4 require a majority. So these can be taken in a block by groups if everyone is happy. So recommendations 1 and 6 are for noting. So please indicate that you have noted the recommendation. 2 and 5, I can't vote, but all those in favour, please show. Super, carried. 3 and 4, all those in favour, please show. And that's carried. Super. Okay, I think that concludes today's meeting. Thank you very much to everyone who's attended, especially those in the public gallery. Thank you. And all those who've joined us on the live stream as well. And thank you to all committee members. Thank you very much.